Hey everyone, welcome to episode 247 of the Your Money Your Life podcast. Make sure wherever you listen, you like, subscribe, five-star rate and review. If you're watching on YouTube and listening on YouTube, do the same thing. Leave a comment, subscribe to the show. We appreciate you doing so. We'll jump right into it. We have a lot to cover. First and foremost, let's jump into what's going on in the market this week. So it's actually been a rougher few days for the market. Again, par for the course for what happens during the course of trading years. Last 5 days, almost down 1%. Today, the market is a little bit higher, but I think there really hasn't been much data to really digest for investors besides the earnings for a bunch of companies. So Tesla was one of those companies that released earnings. We'll talk more about that. Outside of earnings, you're seeing, again, the same things. It's really just earnings that's been the bellwether for the market right now. You have IBM, you have Boeing, you have a bunch of companies bringing out their earnings so far, and there'll be much, much more. Treasury yields are moving, and that's an indication of another thing that's going on in the market. Usually, when you see Treasury yields increasing, that is not the best sign for the market, but data jobless claims slipped as impacts from storms strike east. So initial filings for unemployment benefits receded last week as impacts faded from the recent hurricanes and the Boeing strikes. So you have hurricanes and Boeing strikes. That's going to make people, of course, be out of job, have issues. But we're seeing that the impact is receding from those two factors. If you dive into the actual data, jobless claims for the week ended October 19th totaled a seasonally adjusted 227,000, down 15,000 from the previous week's upwardly revised level. So again, continuing claims starting to normalize and level. Tesla shares of the electric vehicle makers soared nearly 13%, and this is because the company had better than expected profit for the third quarter. The company also expects to see vehicle growth of 20 to 30% next year. This is according to CEO Elon Musk. So again, not that crazy of a time, but just the earnings is the big thing. Let's dive more into Tesla. They're betting on growth of cheaper cars. So of course, you remember when Tesla first came out, the models are high end, pretty expensive. I think they were at least six figures. And then, of course, they released different models that were a lot more, middle class models and affordable. So Tesla's now expecting a big uptick in demand for electric vehicles. And they're saying that they anticipate growth in deliveries. And they also think that they're on track to introduce cheaper vehicles in 2025. The outlook accompanying Tesla's third quarter earnings, which surpassed expectations with the biggest profit in over a year. So Elon Musk he's definitely under pressure to revitalize Tesla. They've had like the stock hasn't been that great, I would say, over the past couple years or two. Let's take a deeper dive into the chart of Tesla. If you're on YouTube, you're seeing this now. Um, yeah, I mean, if you look at it year to date, it's flat over one year up 15%. That's probably trailing the market over one year, but it's usually, I mean, of course, you pull it back 5 years and a much longer duration, it's done well. But we're talking about recent past year. It's been kind of a flattish stock over the past year to date. So again, it's pressure from investors from Elon Musk to revitalize the growth of this company, and they're trying to look at the strategies and the ways to do so. And so that's what the earnings call was about. Apparently, the market likes what they're hearing because the stock did jump on that news. And right now, if you're trading day, it's up 16%. We'll see if that holds throughout the trading day. So that's news on Tesla. Let's see if there was any other bigger news from companies and earnings. Keurig, remember Keurig Dr. Pepper? They're betting 1 billion on energy drinks. So Dr. Pepper Keurig has agreed to buy energy drink maker Ghost. And they announced this on Thursday. Keurig will make an initial investment about 990 million for 60% stake or buying the rest in 2028. It's Keurig's biggest acquisition since 2018 when the coffee maker machine company bought Dr. Pepper Snapple Group for almost 19 billion. So Keurig and a lot of these big, retail, energy drinks or any of these companies, they're really looking for a lot of acquisitions all the time because that's one of the ways they can grow and get into different markets, right? Another company comes in, paves a lane, paves the market, paves consumers. It's hard for you to take those consumers organically unless you inorganically do it, and that's buying. So that's what they're doing here. They're just announced that they're doing that. Ghost, I don't. What is Ghost to make? I'm super excited. So exciting news. Dr. Pepper will acquire the dynamic energy drink brand Ghost. I've never heard. What does the Ghost make? Does anyone know? I've never drank Ghost before, but energy drinks are really popular. I try to have one. This is no ad. I try to have one every morning. Wake up, especially during the week, and just get your energy day, get your day started. It seems to work along with coffee as well. So we'll see. That's a big bet. Their biggest bet since I think they said 2018. So we'll see how that pans out. I think if you look at trends, I think that's going to be a prove to be a smart investment. Open banking rule draws putback. So mere hours after the U.S. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau unveiled a new rule requiring financial institutions to give customers free access to their financial data, the first legal challenge arrived from the banking industry. Interesting. So this is a rule that's going to allow consumers to get free access to financial data from their banks. So um, banks are pushing back on that. So let's see. I want to dive into actually the reasons for this rule. Okay, so the CFP has finalized the Personal Financial Data's Rights Rule, and it's game changer. The rule gives customers more power over their financial information, allowing them to securely access and share their data with trusted third parties. After years of discussion, it's finally here. Customers are now in the driver's seat. Fintechs, this opens a world of possibilities with standardized access to customer data. Banks will need to step up their game as customers gain more control of their data. Banks will have stronger competition, but also an opportunity to offer more personalized services, improving retention and customer satisfaction. Interesting. Pretty much just allows us consumers the ability to have more control over our data, which, different financial institutions, they protect your data, right? But in some cases, like they can share their data among other financial institutions. But now, if you have more control over said data, how does that affect their sharing processes, which they may get money for sharing or different things of that nature. So, like Plaid is an example, as it's an interconnectivity between different financial institutions and ability to pay, cross pay, and they share data, your data across those channels. And so, a place like Plaid or will presumably benefit from this if the consumer can choose to share. So we'll see. It's really more something I want more data on and more nuance than in this discussion because it really could lead to different things. I think in general, having a consumer have more control is always good. You saw what Apple did with allowing you to pretty much approve every time you share your data now. I think that's a good thing. So we'll see how this one plays out. I'm really, really curious. Let's go to home sales. We haven't talked real estate in a while. Home buyers in the US are staying on the sidelines, pushing sales of existing homes to an almost 14-year low. These sales dropped 3%, 3.5% last month from a year earlier to an annualized rate of 3.84 million units, the slowest pace since October of 2010. The National Associated Realtors reported Wednesday hesitancy among buyers has grown in recent weeks as uncertainty builds around how fast interest rates and mortgages are likely to come down. So we saw the yields, the Fed made their move on yields or the Fed fund rate, the overnight lending rate, but we didn't see that translate into the um our actual mortgage rates now. Let's look at 30-year mortgage rates. So the YouTube viewers are getting a sense. So yeah, the 30-year mortgage rate is still it's still up. It's still trending upwards, right? Trending upwards. That's incredible. 30-year mortgage rate on the rise. And again, this is things that will take its time. But it does trending upwards from August. It does have a dip, and now it's starting to trend up, even with the move that the Fed made, right? And so I think that's what's putting home buyers on the sidelines. A lot of them, they're not the people that are date the rate or any of those things and fall and marry the house. These people are looking rather closely at their budget, and it seems like that's pushing them to stay on the sideline. So we'll see what happens with the rates. I predict that more in the spring, summer rates will start to come down, but then you'll probably have more demand in the market, right, to push home sales up because it's more warmer weather time, right? So we'll see how that plays out. It's interesting to watch, but as you saw, buyers are on the sideline, supply is still plentiful, and it's pushing existing home sales out a little bit. So that's something to note. Beyond to lay off 20% of its workforce. Remember Beyond, the Bed Bath& and Beyond parent company, um, they're going to cut 20% of their global workforce. They announced that this week. The layoffs are expected to take place largely in the fourth quarter of 2024, which is a horrible timing, right? Because the fourth quarter of 2024, which I'm assuming, presumably that's when they're going to be the busiest, just because of it's a retail company, I would assume. But also, it's a time where people are buying presents, doing all these things, holidays. That's not great news to get for 20% of this workforce during the holiday time. Not fun. So they're going to do that. They said that this cut will allow them to save about 20 million in fixed expenses. This comes after they announced that they entered a partnership that would bring back physical Bed Bath and Beyond stores. So they're using this cut costs. This is a company that needs to cut costs, and that's one of the ways they're doing so. That's interesting. So we'll keep our eyes on that move as well. Let's look at this. If we move over, let's see if there's any other important news for today. Zyn. Has anyone heard about Zyn? It's like this new tobacco product, I believe. Never tried it. It's from Philip Morris. They bought this nicotine pouch brand in 2020 for 16 billion. Wow, they bought Zyn for 16 billion. Did anyone know that? This year, PMI expects to sell up to 580 million cans of the smokeless stuff. So Zyn is this nicotine pouch that they guess they put in. I've always thought that stuff was gross. No offense to anyone. Take offense if you want. I've always thought that stuff was gross. The tobacco pouch, the nicotine pouches, never my thing. They scared me when I was younger when they show what happens to your face when you have that so long and so long. But we all have our own vices, right? But Marlboro stock jumped 11% Tuesday, an all-time high after reporting 8% sales spike for the Q3 and raising its guidance. So they're just selling this stuff. It's become popular. It's become more of a frat star thing, I believe. But these smokeless products, which include heated tobacco devices, now make up nearly 40% of PMI's revenue, a share that's grown annually as consumers skip cigarettes and they move to Zins. PMI says Zyn has a 73% market share of nicotine pouches at its peak in 2019. Juul was said to have dominated 75% of the e-cigarettes. So these people have big market shares of these products of this area just because of I think popularity, their marketing, their way to get to those colleges and those young people. They gained traction on social media and caught regulators' attentions, and they grabbed market share to booming new categories. So yeah, I think this is interesting to watch. I think it's always interesting to watch how a company and how a product moves so quickly and gains market share. And they did. I mean, you see this everywhere. I don't know anyone that really uses in per se, but I do see it all over social media. So that's interesting to see how they've done it. I'd love to learn more about how they grew so quickly. It seemed to be a lot of with social media influencers and using those tactics, which they did an incredible job of. So Netflix, remember when Netflix was trying to get into video games, which I didn't really understand. I understand most of the moves Netflix made. This one didn't understand. They even had a video game like Choose Your Adventure TV show, which was horrendous, right? That was a big bust. So now they're saying they're going to cut back from this gaming, and they're shuttering Team Blue, its big budget gaming studio, less than 2 years after it was created, and before it even released a game. Has launched 100 plus games to subscribers since it first entered the button mashing biz in 2021. So Team Blue was at the helm by a stack team, including the creative director of Halo. Wow. Netflix kept churning out simpler mobile titled tied to its own IP. So Love is Blind games. There was a Love is Blind game. Oh, anyway, did anyone watch this season? I thought it was a good season, fairly good. Only two people made it to the end for Love is Blind. We watched it last night. We love it. I love the show. So we'll keep an eye on that. But yeah, I think gaming is a hard area. If you think about gaming, it's pretty much been dominated by two players for eternity. Three players, you could say. Like PlayStation, of course, Sony PlayStation, Nintendo, and of course you got Microsoft Xbox. That's a hard market to break into. It's just super incredibly hard. If you think about how you have to scale a video game company, a console like Netflix, it's ambitious for them to do that. It's just not something I would venture to try. Really hard to break into because they have cult like loyal fan bases that really are hard to infiltrate unless you have such an incredible product, which again, it doesn't seem like they were focused on creating something incredible, but more just trying to capture more attention, which is if you think about what they do, it's great content, which is what they got to stick to. So We'll shelve that with like they're doing. We'll shelve that as well. Walmart moves into RX delivery as retailers race to capitalize on the pharma chain crisis. Interesting. McDonald's says it doesn't take sides as POTUS candidates make their final push. Just looking for more stories that may um, pique our interest. This one's interesting. Disney is searching for its next boss as Bob Iger plans a second retirement. So Disney is looking for its next boss. Who do you think that's going to be? Bob Iger came back in, did a pretty good job, I'd say, in like reforming this company that was having troubles under their former leadership that came in after him. But they're seemingly trying to make a he's looking to retire again, which makes sense. He's done a lot for the company. And now he's looking to retire. We'll see who they pick for that. I'm really actually curious. Let's get into questions of the week. Question of the week. I love this first one. What percent of people, what percent of people have a perfect credit score of 850? I actually am curious on this. Um, about one fifth of the about one fifth of people have an exceptional score of 800 to 850. There's only 1% of people that have 850 itself. So I would be I'm over 800 if I'm not mistaken. So I would be in that one fifth of people, but 1% of people have a perfect 850 score. I wonder if I'll have a perfect 850 score. What's your score? Does it really matter? I guess it does matter for like lending purposes. But people really hyper focus on credit score for some reason, which is good. You want to have a credit score to get lending, to be able to have, leverage, but a lot of factors that take into account when it comes to lending and leverage is like income, all these different other factors as well, right? Not just your credit score, but that does play a part. So that's interesting to know. What percent of Gen Z, we talked about that one last week. How many payment transactions does a consumer make in a typical month? How many payment transactions does a consumer make in a typical month? Hmm. I'm gonna say at least 50, right? Oh, I was close. Answer's 46 transactions. That's pretty close from my estimation. 46 transactions, almost 50. That's the typical amount of transactions a consumer makes in a typical month. Really good question this week. Really good. I thought we were close, spot on. We do this every week, so make sure wherever you're listening, you like, subscribe, review, update on us. We have a busy, busy week. This is one of the busier weeks for New Street Sports and New Street Advisors Group. New Street Advisors Group, I'll be speaking in Baltimore for the AIGA creative cash flow workshop seminar. We're doing that at 3, I believe we're at 3:30. And it's going to be at Imagine Center in Baltimore. So if you're in the area, pop in, register. There'll be a link that my LinkedIn page for you to register, come attend, and see us talk about creative cash flow and ways to budget, save, retire for creatives. And that'll be a great, great seminar. And then we have a couple more. We have one at the Freelancers Hub on the 29th of October. We are doing Knowledge Hub consultations at the Freelancers Hub again as well. We did one Tuesday, which was great. And then we have another one in December. So we have so much cooking for those that are trying to learn more about taking control of their finances as they end out the year and into 2025. Please tap in New Street Sports. We're talking to many, many prospects across the country on what their chances are and how we can help them at the next level, which will be playing professional sports. And so we're excited to represent those players that we will be representing. If you haven't already tapped in with me, make sure to do so. Folks, we do this every week. Please stay tapped in, share with your family and friends. We'll talk soon.